the last 3 weeks or however long, it's really been longer than that, but since the playoffs started and we were able to win that game at home and to see the fans' response, not only for me but for our whole team, has been so special, and it's something I'll never forget. Obviously the season didn't end how we had hoped, and last night was disappointing, but in particular those 2 home games in the playoffs were as special and electric of an environment as you can imagine, and it was a lot of fun. In regards to my future, it's not up to me. I love this place, and we'll see what happens as time goes on here, but I love this place, and love Dan, love all the coaches, love all my teammates, and it's not out of my hands in some ways. It's up to my representatives and obviously the people upstairs.
Now, it is up to him at some level. Now, there's different layers to this conversation. Whether or not the Lions want him to continue to be on the team is not up to him. They clearly want him to be on the team. That's resolved.
Right.
The question is, how much are they willing to pay him?
Yeah.
What they're willing to offer is not up to him. What he's willing to accept is up to him. So I don't accept, and I wholeheartedly reject this idea that he's just a bystander in his own life. You're not. It is up to you. You're either going to say yes or you're going to say no to whatever their best offer is. Or they're going to tell you, we'll wait. We'll gladly pay you $21.7 million in the last year of the contract that you signed, that we honored, that the Rams had to give up a first-round pick to get us to honor. This is the contract you negotiated. We'll wait until next year. We want to give it one more year and see what happens. What's he going to do? Retire? I guess he could retire, but it's still up to him. There are things that are up to him. He is not helpless in this. He is not trapped in this. He has major say. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what we were talking about yesterday, Chris. Where does he land between the Jimmy Garoppolo, middle-of-the-pack veteran quarterback, $25 million a year, and top-of-the-market, $55 million? Where does he land? How is it structured? What are they willing to do for a guy who has strengths, but he has weaknesses?
Right.
When it's time to go off schedule, he's not the guy. When it's time to run the play that's called, he's the guy. And next year, it may be a different guy calling the plays. Ben Johnson may be gone. So I just...
Yeah, they gotta balance that. How much is Ben Johnson? It's not an easy situation.
Right. But he's not helpless in all this.
No.
He's got a lot more control and power over it than he's letting on. And if he doesn't realize it, shame on him.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he's probably just being humble, right? I think he's got about as much power as any Detroit Lions quarterback has had that I can remember in recent history. Just, again, the resurgence of the football team. The city rallied around the Lions. The city specifically rallied around Jared Goff. I mean, I've been in the New England Stadium during Brady's already won 3 Super Bowls. We've been to Kansas City and Mahomes has won 2 Super. They don't chant the quarterback's name before the game like out loud consistently during warm-ups, during the start of the game. I mean, he's loved in that city right now. So that's where he's got great power. But yeah, they got to find the balance of, again, what is the right price or what's the right paycheck for Jared Goff. Yeah, they beat the Rams barely. Yeah, they beat the Bucks kind of barely, right? And then we know last week it didn't work out well, and he was up 24-7. And like you said, there's no Ben Johnson most likely next year. What's he going to look like without one of the best offensive minds in football? I think those are things that are all fair to question. I don't think there's any doubt, and I think they will try to get something done, right, just to squash. But I don't think squash the conversation about, it's his last year, and so they don't have to hear all of that type of stuff. But, yeah, I would imagine they got to find a middle ground here, and he's got to be, like you're saying, willing to accept it. Because, at the end of the day, right, I know he went to the NFC Championship game, right? But Stafford's down 10 points to the Niners in the NFC Championship game. He comes back and they win it. Jared Goff's up 17 points against, the 49ers in the championship game. They lose it, right? He wasn't as good as Brock Purdy on the field. We can all see that. Like you said, Brock Purdy made a lot of outside-the-line type of plays, backyard football. Jared Goff got pressure on a 4th and 2 and had to move 5 inches, and the ball went 5 feet to the left, and the receiver had to dive for it on a 4th and 2, right? So that's where you got to find the sweet spot. Good player, can do a lot, but I don't think you or me, if we were going to sit here and we were going to rank quarterbacks, that Jared Goff would be in the top 10 conversation. He would not be there. He'd be somewhere after that, and that's where, to me, they got to make sense of it all and find a contract that's conducive to kind of where he's at in the pantheon of quarterbacks right now.
And I say all this fully cognizant of the fact that my attitude is get everything you can while you can. The salary cap keeps going up and up and up. They haven't even finalized it for this year because they're trying to figure out how are we going to do this, because it's poised to explode.
Yeah.
And
Looks
they
like
want to
it.
smooth it out. That's the league's way of saying we want to keep some of this money in our pockets for now. We don't want to have to devote this money to the players, even though we should. We're going to smooth it out. And so there aren't. And I've seen the different arguments, and the arguments, they make no sense. Like, I'm not even going to go down that path. The bottom line is the salary cap keeps going up and up and up. Whether it smooths or whether it spikes, it keeps going up. So what these guys are making is fair. It just seems shocking. And for quarterbacks, there is a huge range now. Where does he fall? $40 million isn't what it was just a few years ago. $45 million isn't what it was just a few years ago. I don't know where he lands, Chris. And the worst thing the Lions could do is sign him to a market-level deal and then decide in 2 years we got to get rid of him, and we can't. We're going to have to give up a first-round pick to another team as part of a trade for our next quarterback and not make it obvious that we had to give up a first-round pick to unload this contract, just like the Rams did 3 years ago with Goff's last contract.
Yeah, they got to find that sweet spot. That's right. And is that $40 million? Is it a Daniel Jones type contract? Basically like, hey, 2 years we're tied to this guy. After that, we can kind of get out of it, and we give him some good money. Right, but that to me is it's somewhere in that area, in that ballpark, right? I think that would be fair. I think that's kind of where he is as a football player. And again, I think if we kind of rattle off names and starting quarterbacks, we could rattle off 12 or 13, I think for sure, before we would start to go, ooh, maybe this is Jared Goff range. I don't have any doubt about that.
That's why the key to this contract is going to be the structure. When will the Lions be able to, without major salary cap pain, without lingering guaranteed cash, when will they be able to rip the Band-Aid off and move on? Like the Raiders were after 1 year with Derek Carr, like the Broncos might be doing after 2 years with Russell Wilson, even though it is going to be a significant cap charge to move on. What will the structure of this deal be? And will Goff be more concerned about structure, or will he be concerned about the average per year? Devin McCourty and I were talking about this at Ford Field when we were down in the green room that was neither green nor a room. And he said players, like with issues with tax, income tax, no state income tax, he said most players don't care about that. All they care about is the APY on the contract. They don't care about any of those other factors, including whether or not they're going to be playing in a state that doesn't have income tax. They just want to have the highest possible annual per year average because that's what everybody knows about, and that's how you rank yourselves among your peers.
Right.
Where do I land in the APY stack? So you could give Jared Goff a really high APY, but also be able to escape the thing after a couple of years if that's what you choose to do. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.